Show, everybody. If you're streaming us on YouTube or watching us on KUAM TV, we appreciate you paying attention because the latest Teach In event, it's part of a series hosted by Independent Guahan, is going to happen very, very soon. This is an interesting one, so I have here two new friends of mine, Josephine Ong and Jamela Santos. Ladies, hafa adai, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Okay, I am fascinated about Teach In. As a son of a pair of educators and everything like that, that resonates with me. So tell me, Josephine, exactly how do you come up with the idea of a Teach In? Who's involved and who do you speak towards?
So it's based on like a conversations between me, Jamela, a couple other Pinay activists and independent Guahan activists, and we were thinking, how come Filipinos haven't been talked about in the conversations about decolonization? So we figured that this would be an opportunity for us to learn from each other and learn from our histories. So the purpose of a teach-in is to learn about things that aren't talked about, and because Filipino histories haven't often been talked about in Guahan, that's the purpose of this teach-in, to learn about something that isn't always talked about.
That is an interesting angle, and many people with independent Guahan have stressed the fact that they're like, it's not independent Chamorros, it's independent Guam and Guahan. So, we want to emphasize that we are all one community. Is that pretty much on point?
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, for some of us, we immigrated here, we moved here, or some of us were born here, and so Filipinos who have some kind of connection to Guam, however we got here, we exist here, and so it's really important for us to fully exist here, meaning that we support the people whose lands we're occupying and living on, and that we don't live in a bubble of not thinking about where we are and the struggles that we as a people faced in the Philippines, and then the struggles that Chamorro people are going through at the moment.
And there's a lot of perspective if you incorporate, those voices into it that can really enrich the conversation and, provide deeper understanding, I would assume.
Yeah, so, and also the Filipinos' histories and struggles back in the Philippines haven't often been talked about, but they reveal a lot about the struggles for independence that Filipinos also went through against similar colonizers, the Americans and Spanish, and briefly the Japanese. So these are very similar colonial histories that aren't talked about. So the purpose of the teaching is also to draw those parallels that haven't been clearly drawn like in a specific format as like our teaching aims to do. So it's a way to draw into things that are already there but sometimes aren't made clearly visible, and it's a very good learning opportunity for those that already have certain questions or like just don't see Filipinos being involved in the conversation about decolonization of Guahan.
Now, by definition, because it's a teach-in, does that mean you'll be talking to a predominantly education-centric audience, or is it just more about the educating of those voices and that experience and that history to whoever wants to listen?
Yeah, so it is about like talking to anyone who's interested in the topic, and also not just like a specific classroom setting, but an opportunity for us to learn about each other, because we're all communities that exist and live in Guahan, and for us to not know about each other's histories is a bit like not really beneficial for both of us. So it's an opportunity for all of us to learn, no matter what walk of life you come from. Education, it should be for everybody. And
teaching is, of course, as you ladies know, a two-way street. So even though you've got a very strong argument, Jamela, that you guys are making, it's very well researched, beautifully articulated. You can probably also learn more because you're not just like throwing out a message there and saying, this is what we are, we want to get you in our way of thinking. This is a dialogue.
Yes, exactly. And that's what we were actually hoping, is that we would be able to use this as a way to open up further dialogues and conversations between our communities, and not just Filipinos and Chamorros, but other people who are living on this island. And so we're just giving a little bit of a teaser. The Filipino revolutionary history that we're presenting. We're just going through it very briefly, even though people could take like courses and be in this study for a long time. We're doing it in like an hour and a half. So it's just the beginning of hopefully a long conversation and dialogue that really is not about saying we're anti-something or we're against something, but really trying to include as many people in this conversation as possible, because it's an important time. Like the Filipino community just celebrated our independence, and we celebrate that year after year. And so how do we continue to celebrate the independence of our country on the land of people who are yet to establish independence.
You know, having covered this like for the last, you know, couple of years or so, that seems to be the big misconception that everybody has is they were like, well, there's this group and they're going to like force feed, you know, their ideals down my throat. But you, like you said, you know, you're not anti one side or pro the other side, but if you are pro anything, you're pro information. It's about understanding the issue well, and then make your own decision.
Right, and the dialogue I think we really want, and and a dialogue means that there are different people contributing and not just one person talking at, right? So we definitely want to make sure that people understand we're not talking at an audience. And
well, Josephine, that's a perfect segue because I like the way that the two of you are kind of like playing off each other right now. And as I understand it, the both of you are going to be, is it just the two of you presenting, or are you part of a panel, a larger group?
There's 4 of us.
There's 4 of us presenting. So Jamel and I, Kristen Obriano and Rizal, we're all been involved with Independent Guahan or are connected with Chamorro scholars and activists. So this all came from like wanting to talk to each other more and like us seeing the Filipino community as being like a community that had not been reached out to or not been talked with, and that can create this like impression that Chamorro activists are talking down to people when really there just needs to be more space for dialogue and conversation and acknowledgement of each other's histories of struggle, and something Vince Diaz talks about is mutual respect between Filipino and Chamorro communities. That's the purpose of this teaching. We're trying to build in mutual respect by learning each other's histories and talking to each other. All
right, well, we got to go to commercial break, but Jamel, a final word can be yours. Where can people go to find out more information, or how can they participate and be part of this dialogue?
So you can access information on the Independent Guahan Facebook page, and Josephine has information also. She can
you can check their Facebook and Instagram for monthly updates on their teach-ins and plus events that they're holding.
All right.
So one last plug. So the teach-in is this Thursday, the 20th, at 4:30, 4 o'clock to 5:30. 4 o'clock to 5:30. At the University of Guam, HSS Building Room 106.
Very nice. Well, thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, please stay tuned. We are back right after this.